All right, good morning, everybody. This is the note presentation that I've asked you all to watch before you start reading your textbook summer assignment sections. Again, my name is Mr. Mendoza. I'll be one of the teachers teaching World History Honors next year. And we already had that meeting at the end of the school year where we talked about the summer assignments. So hopefully you should already be reading Farewell to Manzanar and working on that question packet that goes along with it. Um, but the other portion of the summer assignment is to read sections out of the textbook on some really important history that's going to lay some foundation going into next year's class. But more than just reading that book, there is a specific way that I want you guys to take notes on, and I'm going to go over that training with you. But before I get into that part, I want to share with you a personal story that I normally share at the beginning of the school year, and I probably will, but I want to share it with you now here as well because it's very relevant to the work that you are about to do. Mind you, first, before I begin, it's the day before summer school and maintenance is working and testing the fire alarms. So you might hear a fire alarm in the background. I'm going to try to ignore it. So you ignore it as well. Okay. All right. Let me screen share here because the story begins right here. Okay, so one thing I'm going to be talking a lot about next year in World History Honors is the idea of going to college, right? I would assume that most of you are probably taking an honors class because you want to go to college, right? Well, this is where I went to college, to UC Berkeley. Oh man, I will be talking so much more about this in class next year, but just to give you a little bit of background about me, I am the first in my family to go to college. And boy, did I choose a pretty hard one to go to. Of course, I knew that going in. I knew that applying. Honestly, I didn't think I had that great of a chance of getting in. But fortunately, I did. And I'm so glad I did because going to Berkeley, which is in the Bay Area, there in the background across the bay, you see the city of San Francisco. Um, was probably one of the best decisions I made in the young part of my life. Um, Going to Berkeley was such a powerful, overwhelming, exciting new adventure in my life, and I'll be sharing a lot of that with you, and hopefully getting you excited about the idea of you going to college as well. Um, but Berkeley is considered to be like one of the Ivy Leagues of the West Coast, right? It's a very prestigious school. It's very tough to get into. I'm also very proud of the fact that every year we always send a couple of students from Mission Oak to go to Berkeley. So I am very excited about that. But look how beautiful this campus is, right? And it's right here in California in our own backyard. It's about 4 hours away from Tulare. So for me, that was the perfect distance to kind of get away from home, being independent, but also if I got a little homesick, it's just a short train ride home. So I absolutely loved it. And being the first person to go to college was a bit of a challenge because there was no one at home to kind of give me pointers on, hey, this is what you need to do as a college student. This is how you find a dorm. This is how you study, right? This is what to expect in classes. So, for example, this is one of many libraries at Berkeley, right? And look at all these students studying. You go into a busy room like this, and you can hear a pin drop. It's kind of intimidating at first, but then it's just kind of inspiring at the same time. Um, did you ever study like this when you're at Mission Oak? Probably not. So this was new to me because I never really studied like this before an exam in high school. I never really spent hours preparing, a handwritten essay for my English class. So college is very, very different. All right. And so the whole reason why I'm sharing this story with you is to lead you to this moment. All right. So this is a picture I found that really reminds me of a fond memory and yeah, even kind of a nightmare. So I'm so excited being a first year college student. First day, I have all the jitters, almost like if it was going back to school, in high school or even kindergarten for the first time. I was just so excited. I remember walking to my very first class. It was a math class, a statistics class. And I walked into the lecture hall and it looked like this. Okay, Berkeley is one of those large schools that have large lecture halls that have like 300 students in it. And so I remember kind of scooting in, a couple of seats into a row, and I had a seat, and I folded up one of the tables that's right there next to the chair. And I was so excited. I couldn't wait for this class to start because this is it. This is what college looked like. And the professor walks in, writes his name on the board, and his name was the same name that was on our textbook because he wrote it. And I'm thinking, wow, this is pretty exciting. It's happening. This is college. This is awesome. And then he starts his lecture. And then I notice all the other students who had their notebooks open, boy, that they already know what to do. They're writing their notes. They're looking at the professor, then they're looking back at their notes and they're writing notes down. And I'm like, okay, here it goes. And I froze. It was at that moment I realized I did not know how to take notes. And I kind of like went into a panic. I mean, I didn't show it, but I'm like, okay, wait a minute. How do all these students know what to do and what to write down? And I don't know anything. And I came to realize that in high school, not a single one of my teachers ever taught me how to write notes, how to take really good notes. Um, so in a panic, what I do is I try to write down every word verbatim that the professor was saying. And that lasted me about 2 minutes. I couldn't keep up. My hands started cramping up, and no one else was doing that. I was like, well, wait, how do I take notes? I don't know how to take notes. And I was in for a shock because taking notes in college is your lifeline. I mean, this is why you go to class, to listen and to take notes. And here I am about to start my very first class, and I realize I don't know how to take notes. And that panic turned into anger. How is this possible? How is it that every teacher I had in high school never taught me how to take notes? Yes, I had those teachers, like in science and in history, that would project notes on the board and that we would just copy them down. That's not what they do in college. The professors, they just start talking, and it's up to you to write notes. And at first, I'll be honest, I kind of felt like I was like let down. Like I wasn't prepared for this moment. And I got angry. But of course, that's something that's not going to help. So I got over that really quick. And it took time. It took me days. It took me weeks to try to figure out how in the world do I take notes? And my first couple of years, my notes were messy, man. There was no organization to it. They were just, every class was different. Every day was different. And I was just like, okay. And I struggled through that in college. I mean, I overcame that struggle. I still did well in college, but I was never, ever satisfied with my note-taking skills. Then I become a teacher. And I realized that one of the reasons why I wanted to become a teacher was not just to teach students history or to teach whatever it was I was teaching that particular year, but to help them prepare for college much more than I was. And so fortunately I got the opportunity to teach Avid. I was an Avid teacher for many, many years. And I came across at one of the trainings an important strategy to help students become successful. And that strategy was a very effective style of note taking, which at first I was like, I don't know about this. This sounds like a lot of work. I mean, really, do I really want students to have a lot of work taking notes? And it came to my realization that yes, it does take time for students to be trained and learn how to take really good notes. And those notes were called Cornell notes. Now, I know a lot of you are familiar with Cornell notes. A lot of you have probably taken Cornell notes. But um, even if you're an avid student, you're like, yeah, Mendoza, I got this. All right, no, they're not that good. I am telling you, you have not been trained 100% properly on how to take Cornell notes. And this is what I'm going to train you to do right now. So pay attention because this is how you are going to be taking notes in World History Honors. All right. I know there are some haters out there. There's some deniers. No, Mendoza, it's not that good. Trust me, I've been doing this since the sixth grade. Well, it's because no one has ever taught you why you should be taking notes. And again, more effectively, how you should be taking the notes. That's what I'm going to do for you in the next, so hopefully 5-10 minutes. Okay, so get ready, pay attention because this is your next summer assignment. When you read each section that's been assigned in Google Classroom, this is the style of notes you must take. Okay. And at that meeting, I gave you all copies, your own set of copies of blank Cornell note paper. If you didn't go to that meeting and you're watching this, you're like, what notes? Email me. I teach summer school. You can come by Mission Oak and pick up, a stack of these notes so that you have. Okay. All right. So let's get into this. So many, many years ago, there have been studies done by university scholars, researchers, just on note taking itself. All right. And what they found was pretty amazing. All right. What they found was that the proper way of taking notes was here's what you do and here's what you don't do. All right. First, the verbatim note taking, the way I try to take notes on that very first college class, is the least effective way to do it. All right. Um, that is way too overwhelming. You're going to focus too much on the words that are being said to put on your paper than what is being said to understand. All right. So don't ever do that. Instead, you are going to listen and then write in your own words what you are understanding. Don't worry. I'll teach you how to do this. Your notes also should be considered a work in progress, not something that you just write in that class and then boom, I'm done. Because a lot of students, like I did in high school, make the mistake in feeling good, oh, that I took notes, but then you never go back to them ever. All right. That is bad. All right. So we're going to change that. Notes should be used as study guides to help you prepare for upcoming tests or assessments or finals. Okay. So I'll teach you how to study from them. And the more you do to your notes, the more you add to your notes, your learning will improve. Okay. And don't take that for my word. Again, this is the conclusion of researchers who've spent many years and studied thousands of student study habits in college on this. And these were their conclusions. Okay. Here's what they found. When students do not write down anything that they hear or learn in class, they're just sitting there, just listening, they will forget approximately 60% of what they're learning within 2 weeks. All right. So imagine that. I think we know this, right? You go to class. Yep. There's the first alarm test. Sorry about that. So if you go to class and you don't write anything down, no notes, you're going to forget 60% of what you learned within just 2 weeks. Now imagine you have a quiz 2 weeks later, you forget 60% of that. Mathematically, what can you expect your score to be on that test? 40%. That is an F. That's not good. All right. So obviously that is a no-no. You always must be writing notes. Even if the teacher doesn't say, all right, take out note paper. If a teacher is teaching you something, you got to take out your note paper. All right. You got to be writing notes down. They also found that when students write down just brief notes about what they're learning or hearing, just a little bit, that you will keep approximately 60% of what you're learning. Big difference. If you just write down just some things that you're learning in class, just some notes, you'll keep approximately 60% of that information. So here comes the test. If you kept 60% of that information, what score is that? What is 60%? That's a D minus. That's barely passing. Okay. So we don't want to do that either. We don't want to just write some brief notes, some things. No. All right. So finally, their final conclusion, which is the most important, when students take thorough, very organized notes, very thorough notes that are very neat and organized, and those notes are reviewed from time to time, students will keep 90 to 100% of that information that they learned in class. Imagine getting 90 to 100% on every test you take in whatever class you're taking these really good notes in. That is the outcome. This is why it's so important for me to teach you how to take very effective notes. And from my many years of experience as a college student who wasn't a good note taker, to my many years of going to staff conferences and trainings on how to take good notes, guys, I'm telling you, yes, Cornell note taking is the most effective way, in my opinion, but also in my experience. So I'm going to have you guys do this as well. And you are going to be a Cornell note taking factory. All right. So good news. If you're an avid student, oh yeah, I'll be hooking you up with notes constantly for your binder checks. But if you've never really taken Cornell notes seriously, now is the time to do that because you're going to see how effective they can be. All right. So here's kind of the conclusion that they put in graph form of this study done, again, many years ago. So if you look at this brown bell chart, this line graph here, it goes up and down, right? On day one, you are going to remember everything you learned because you just learned it on that day, right? But if you never write down notes in that class, everything you learned on day one, you're going to lose by day 7 within a week. And then over a month, oh, I mean, it's like you never learned it, okay? But then look at the yellow line. After day one, yeah, you might kind of forget a couple things, but if you go back and review your notes for like 10 minutes, even that's kind of a bit. But if you review your notes, you're going to regain all that knowledge back. If you go a week later and go back and review your notes, even less with less time, you're still, excuse me, you're still going to retain all that information. Go back to those notes a month later, even for fewer time. It's still all going to be here. Now, wouldn't that be helpful to have a tool like this in high school, but especially in college? All right. My goal as your teacher is not just to teach you history. It's to get you prepared for that very first day of college. Whether you go to COS, whether you go to Fresno State, whether you go to UCLA or Berkeley, I want you to be prepared for that first day of college so you don't have that same horrible experience and panic attack that I had, realizing I don't know what I'm doing. How in the world do I take notes? That will not be a problem for you. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. How do we take notes? So there's the story, there's the research. Let's talk about how you take notes. Okay. So I will be giving you a handout like this for every assignment. And this is what you have at home. This is what I gave you at the meeting, right? I gave you, I think, a stack of 6 of these, right? Handouts front and back. So here it is. This is what Cornell note paper looks like. Now, in Avid, they have you guys set up your own note paper. That's cool too. But for this assignment and for my work, I want you working off these handouts. I want you to get this system like ingrained in your memory so that after next year, when you're done with my class, you will know the system and you can set up your own paper and organize it very neat. But for my class this year, for World History Honors, this is the handout that you'll be using and that will be given to you. Okay. All right. The very first thing you do when you get this is you got to set it up. It's already set up for you. All right. So what that means is you just got to fill in the information on top. Don't ever leave any of those lines blank. Okay. So you must have a topic title for your notes. I will always provide that to you, like in the slides after a lecture or something. Of course, you got to write your name. What pages are you reading if it is a reading assignment? Sometimes I'll give these to you for a documentary or video. Then you don't have to put page numbers, obviously. Number of sides. How many number of sides of notes did you take? Based on the amount of reading that I assign, I'll put, oh, you guys only need to do 1 side of notes, just the front, or 2 sides, or sometimes if it's a little longer, 3 sides. All of the notes that you will be doing for this summer assignment should be 2 sides, front and back. Okay. Then it's really important you put the date on there because when the notes get returned back to you, you're going to keep all your notes in order of dates, keep them organized. And then, of course, more for me than for you, but what period and what table number. For me in my classroom, I have you guys sitting at tables, so it's helpful for me to know what table you're at. All right. But the most important part of the setup is you must write down what the essential question is. What is the question of the day? What is the question that I want you to be able to answer by the end of the day, by the end of the assignment, by the end of the reading, okay? The reason why the essential question is so important is because this is what gives your notes purpose. This is what you will be taking notes on. The mistake that students make is when they are told to take notes, they don't know what's important or not important. So they end up writing everything and it becomes too much work. The importance of an essential question is when you do the reading, you know what reading is important. You know what information is important. If it helps you understand or answer the essential question, then you know you need to write it down in your notes. If you read information, and there will be some information in your textbook that doesn't help you answer the essential question, don't write it down. Skip over it. All right? Saves you time. So that essential question is so important. So you must have an essential question written on top of your paper. And again, I will always provide that to you in class. Okay. So that's the first thing you do with your corner note paper. You just set up, write in all the information that will already be provided to you. Okay. All right. The next part is you start reading. Okay. So here's an example of a student a set of notes, a really good student set of notes that I have. Disregard all the markups because I graded it. It looks like their Avid teacher may have marked it up too. So just ignore all the markings. But you see how Lupita put in all that information. That's exactly what you guys will need to do as well. Okay. All right. So what do you do next? Now you start reading. All right. You start the reading assignment. And when you start taking notes, you are only going to be taking notes on the right side. Leave the left column alone. Leave the bottom alone. Here's where a lot of avid students make the mistake. I'll get to this later, but the left column is to write questions. Okay. And the mistake that avid students make often is that they'll write the questions as they're doing the reading. Stop that. Don't ever do that. Okay. Only focus on the reading and writing down your notes. Okay. With the exception of vocabulary words. When you come across a vocabulary word in your textbook, in your notes, then on the left-hand side, write down the vocab word on a line and then write down the definition on the right. I'll come back and show you some examples, okay? But other than that, do not write the questions as you are doing the reading. Some of you think, oh, it's easier, it's faster that way. It might be, but it's not effective, all right? Save those questions until you're done with the reading, you're done with the notes, and then develop those questions as a review. We'll get back to that later, okay? I want to focus on taking notes, okay? So when you're taking notes in the textbook is neatly organized. I love this textbook because it has main headings, subheadings, and you're going to include all that in your notes. Again, I'll show you here in a little bit. When you come across a new idea, skip a line, okay? Avoid making your notes one big, huge paragraph page because then it becomes overwhelming for your brain. Like, whoa, like, how do I go through this? What's important in my notes, right? So when you skip lines, when you write those headings and subheadings, oh man, it makes your notes look really, really good, okay? When you're taking notes, yes, I'm telling you this, try to write as little as possible, okay? Yes, I said that. I'm gonna say it again. When you're writing notes, try to write as little as possible. What do I mean by that? Abbreviate big words. Like in these first several readings, like you're going to come across the word government a lot. Abbreviate it. How would you abbreviate government? Gov, right? G-O-V. Abbreviate civilization, right? Civ. You guys are expert abbreviators because I know this because of the way you guys text to each other. You abbreviate everything. Abbreviate your notes. Write as little as possible, okay? Also, paraphrase. What you're going to do is you're going to read a paragraph at a time, okay? Do not write anything until you read one paragraph. Stop. Think about, was there anything in this paragraph that helps me understand or answer the essential question? If the answer is yes, then think about what was important in that paragraph and then write it down in one or two sentences in your own words in your notes. That's what paraphrasing is. You're taking important information from a longer text and you're shortening it in your own words. And that really helps you generate that information in your brain and it sticks. All right. Try not to ever copy exactly information from the textbook onto your notes because you're not processing that information. Always put it in your own words when you can. Okay. Does that make sense? And then use symbols to kind of like draw attention, circles, stars, even a little pencil drawing, something that'll help you, kind of process information and bring it out in your notes. Okay. So here's what Lupita's notes look like as she was doing the reading. Okay. Notice how I covered the left-hand side and the summary, because we'll come to that later. But look at her notes. Notice how she uses different colors for the headings. She uses red for the main headings, blue for the subheadings. Notice how she has kind of just like bullet points like listed there. Again, she's using it. She's writing information in her own words that she felt was important for her to understand the essential question. Okay. Now, don't worry, I will be providing a full copy of these notes for you. They're already in Google Classroom, so you can go back and review. And this is actually going to be one of your assignments. So once you do your assignment, you can come back and kind of compare them to this example here, okay? But look how neat. And this was a front and back, so she has notes on the backside too. Again, I'll show that to you a little bit later. Beautiful notes. All right. Obviously, it's far less of what the textbook has, but she chose to write down important information. Now, on the left-hand side, you see kind of, faded there, the word republic. That's one of the vocab words. And so, sorry, there's another test. So she wrote that on the left column, and on the right side, she wrote out the definition and she even highlighted it. All right. But you do that as it pops up in the reading. Okay. Don't just kind of put it in a random place. We'll always do it like in the order of your reading. So it's under that same heading. Okay. All right. So that is how you take notes. Now, taking notes on any given assignment on average should take you about 30 to 40 minutes. Okay. If it's taking you an hour, guys, you're spending way too much time on it. All right. So hopefully that's helpful for you to know, like, am I doing this right? If you're taking more than an hour or up to an hour, you're probably spending way too much time on it. Okay. Read each paragraph. Boom, boom. Summarize it. One or two sentences. Only if it has information that helps you understand the essential question. Okay. So keep that in mind. All right. So you took notes for about 30, 40 minutes. You filled up the front and the back side. Cool. What do you do next? Now it's time to review and apply this information. Okay. So you finish the reading. Now, even if you finish the two sides, if the reading is not done, you got to continue. Get another piece of paper. Continue this format, right? It's what's more important is that you get to the end of the reading, not that, oh, I finished two sides. Mendoza only said two sides, so I'm done. No, you got to get to the end of the reading. If you have more than two sides of notes, you're probably taking too many notes. All right. Again, so you might want to improve on that. All right. But let's say you finish the reading, you've done the notes. Okay. What do you do next? Now, as soon as possible, and maybe even right then and there, now it's time to go back through your notes. Remember how I said students who review their notes, right, retain that information 90, 100% of the time. Here's how you review it. You're going to go back through your notes, put the textbook aside. You finish with that. Now it's just you and your notes. And I want you to develop really good questions that will kind of test you on your knowledge of your notes. That's what you're going to write on the left-hand side. Okay. But they cannot just be any questions. You cannot say, who was Socrates? No, that is not a good question because I could answer that with one or two words. He's a philosopher. Okay, how is that important? All right. So you have to write questions that require an explanation. Okay. And if you look at the black box here, here in this left above the left-hand column, I even leave you this note. Every question must lead to an explanation and should include descriptive words like, how. How was Socrates, or how was Socrates' ideas important to the development of democracy? Well, see, that kind of question will require an explanation. Okay. But here's the other catch. Whatever question you come up with and you write on the left-hand side, the answer should be found on the right-hand side in your notes. Okay. So you want to line up the questions to the information in your notes. Okay. How many questions should you come up with? I would imagine you want to know. Typically, the rule is at least 3 questions per side. So for your summer assignments, since most of them, I think all of them are 2 sides of notes, that should be 6 questions that you should come up with. 3 on the front, 3 on the back, or 2 on the front, 4 on the back, as long as they total 6 questions. All right. And make sure they're good questions that require an explanation. Okay. All right. This is a great way of studying your notes, coming up with your own questions. This is what teachers do. We come up with questions. We think about, okay, what should students know, right? And we develop questions for your test. This is what you're doing. You're developing really good questions. You're almost making like your own test, right? On information that you learned. That is where the learning is going to stick, okay? Then what you've also created is a study guide. So when you come back to your notes next week or a little bit later before a test, now all you got to do is read your questions and see if you remember the answer. That's a study guide. All right. And if you if you forgot the answer, well, look in your notes. You have the answer in your notes. All right. So this is a great hookup, guys, because again, I wish I had someone teach me this when I was in college. This would have been really helpful for me then. So I know it'll be helpful for you now. Okay. Okay. And so this is what questions look like. Take a look at Lupita's questions. How was the republic established? That is going to require an explanation. Why did plebeians hold very little power? That requires an explanation. Okay. All right. So again, she had 3 questions on front. She'll have 3 questions on back. So she meets that requirement of the 6 questions. Cool. And now I know she also went through her notes because she came up with some really good questions. I know she reviewed them. All right. This is why it's important that you guys write your questions. If you don't write questions, you'll be losing points on your notes and you will not be getting full credit. So you got to make sure you have those 6 questions. Okay. All right. Now, on to the last part. What do we do at the very end of our notes? We wrote our notes. We did questions. What do we do next? Now is the time to wrap up our notes, right? So you got the information from the reading. You have that on the right side. You review the notes by coming up with some good questions. You have that on the left side. How do I know you got it? As a teacher, how do I know, yep, you have this information, you're on it? That comes to the final part of your notes, part 4. You need to write a really good summary, minimum of 5 complete sentences. Okay. And here's the simple part. Your goal is to answer the essential question on top of your notes. Answer that question, but do it using, it's like a mini essay. It's a short essay. Do it using information you got from the reading that you have in your notes. Show me you understand the information, that you can answer that essential question. All right. And you do that by writing a summary with 5 complete sentences that uses the information from your reading. Okay. Typically, that first sentence should be pretty simple. It should be that first sentence is kind of like your thesis, right? Repeat the essential question and add more information to it to complete your first sentence. Okay. You'll see Lupita's example. And of course, when the school year starts, I will help you with this, but I want you to practice this. You must practice this over your summer assignments. Okay. I want to see really good summaries that answer the essential question. Don't stray off and just throw in some random stuff because you have to have 5 sentences that don't relate to the essential question. That whole paragraph, every sentence must be relevant and help you answer that essential question. Okay. So stay on topic. Got it? Okay. Normally at this point I would ask, do you have any questions? But that's not possible right now. But I want to see how you do this summer. Now that I've given you all the information. All right. So here's Lupita's summary. And notice, and I really like this, guys. And I encourage everyone else, she numbered her sentences to make sure that she got all 5. And when I collect these, and when these are collected, we're going to see to make sure that you have 5 questions. So please, or 5 sentences. So please make sure that you've numbered your sentences just a little bit like this, just really small. So you know, and we know that you have your 5 sentences. Okay. Just make sure that they all are related to the essential question. Cool. All right. So let's review. Here are the parts of writing really good Cornell notes. Make sure you write all the information that's required in the setup. Okay. And all that information will be in your Google Classroom. It's there already. Okay. Then you read, you take notes. Do not write the questions. Vocab, yes, but not the questions as you are reading. Okay. Once you finish the reading, go back then and answer, not answer, but write those questions, 3 questions per side. Once that is done, then write a really good 5 sentence summary, 5 complete sentences that answers the essential question. Okay. All right. Is that's pretty much what I have for you guys. Here is a copy of Lupita's notes in full. And again, this is in Google Classroom under the Legacy of Rome assignment. I want you to do the Legacy of Greece assignment on your own, right? See how it is. Hopefully, it should look similar to this. Look at the headings, look at the subheadings, look at the vocab highlighted, look at the questions, look at her summary. All right. That is what I want you to do for all of these assignments. Okay. Now, yes, I want you to do Legacy of Rome as well. All right. Don't copy hers. Obviously, do yours, but then compare it to hers, to kind of see how it looks. This is how your notes should look. Okay. All right. That's it, everybody. That wraps up my presentation. I really look forward to seeing you guys taking World History Honors next year. But are you up for it? That's what the whole purpose of these summer assignments are, both a novel and these notes. Because if you're not up for it, if you find yourself like, oh, I don't know if I do this, then maybe that's a sign that maybe you should take regular next year. Maybe you're not up for it because I want you to take this class and I want you to succeed. And I'm going to help you do that. And you will get prepared for college. So that's something I'm also excited about doing. Okay. If you do have any questions, please feel free to drop a question in the Google Classroom chat, or you can send me an email as well. All right. michaelpaul.mendoza at Tulare, whatever the email is. Okay. All right, guys. Have a good summer. Be productive and work hard. All right. But also get a lot of rest too. Have fun. All right. Talk to you guys later.